Okay, welcome to class today. And today we'll be looking at a very important topic. All right. Pay attention. You can see the board. We have something very important to talk about today. All right. And we'll be looking at what we call the brachial plexus. A very important topic in anatomy. Now, what is the brachial plexus? The brachial plexus is, simply put, the collection of nerves or connection of nerves that supplies the upper limb, or a network of nerves that brings supply to the upper limb. When you hear plexus, one thing that should come to your mind is network. Have you seen a mesh network before? Exactly. Well, that's what that should come to your mind whenever you hear the word plexus. Okay. Now, the brachial plexus is that collection of nerves, that connection of nerves that brings supply to your upper limb. So by the upper limb, we're saying it supplies your shoulders, supplies your arm, supplies your forearm, and even your hand. And of course, you know that in anatomy, the hand is not what the layman calls the hand. The hand is from just your wrist to this phalange. Okay, so that's what your brachial plexus is. I hope we got that correctly. Now, something very important you need to note in the brachial plexus, just to make it very easy for you, is to know that in the discussion of the brachial plexus, okay, the brachial plexus has what we'll call the roots. So when you're discussing the brachial plexus, you have to take into consideration the roots, take into consideration the trunks, take into consideration the divisions, take into consideration the cords and the branches. So there are 5. You have your roots, you have your trunks, you have your cords, divisions, you have your cords, then you have your branches. Okay, the roots, I'll take that again, the roots. Okay, then you have your trunks. Okay, then you have your divisions, then you have your cords, and lastly you have the branches. In today's video, we're going to start with our roots. Now, what is the root of your brachial plexus? What is the root of the brachial plexus? The root of the brachial plexus originates from the 5th cervical vertebrae, okay, and runs to the 1st thoracic vertebrae. All right. When we do the vertebrae, we're going to be looking at the various types of vertebrae that we have. Okay. The cervical vertebrae, the cervical vertebrae has 8 bones. Okay, 7 bones and 8 nerve roots. All right, 7 cervical bones and we have 8 nerve roots. Okay, then the thoracic vertebrae will have 12. All right. Now, in the brachial plexus, one very striking thing that happens is that the nerve roots originates from the 5th cervical vertebrae to the 12th thoracic vertebrae. But then again, something very important you need to note is that we have something that we call the prefixes and the postfix. Okay, now this is the situation where in some persons we have, or some situations, we have the brachial plexus originating from the C4, having some attachment or origination from the C4 vertebrae, that's the 4th cervical vertebrae, and then we can also have some elongation to the 2nd thoracic vertebrae. Okay, so we can have from C4 to T2, we can have an attachment in C4, we can have some in T2, but the normal range is C5 to T1. I hope you got this correctly. Good. Now, when we look at the roots of the brachial plexus, follow me to the board so we'll look at it together. Now, when you look at the roots of the brachial plexus, one very striking thing you will note is that it originates from C5, just as we have said. The origination is from C5, just so you follow me closely. Now, so you can see the C5, the root C5. So as we have C5, we also have the root C6, we also have the root C7, and we also have the root C8 and T1. Okay, so what exactly happens here? What happens here is that the roots from C5 merges with the root from C6 and gives rise to the upper trunk. The root from C7 runs straight up, does not merge with anything, and gives rise to what we call the middle trunk. Okay, the root from C8 and T1 fuses together, all right, to give rise to the lower trunk. Is that okay? Now, when we get to this lower trunk divides, is split into two divisions. Split into two divisions, giving us the anterior division and the posterior division. Remember that the trunk of the C7 runs straight up and gave rise to two divisions too. So what you just need to know is that each of the trunks divided to gave rise to two divisions. Okay, good. We are having the lower trunk now. We have the anterior and the posterior. So each of the divisions now became anterior and posterior divisions of the particular trunk of that particular root. So we have the upper trunk giving rise to the anterior and the posterior divisions. Okay, please pay rapt attention. Very simple, very easy, no stress, nothing to worry yourself about. So pay close attention. Okay, now you're gonna have to see that the anterior and the posterior divisions of the upper trunk, okay, and then we have the anterior and the posterior divisions of the middle trunk. Then we have the anterior and the posterior divisions of the lower trunk. Okay, now something very striking you need to note is that the anterior division of the upper trunk fuses together with the anterior division. If you can see the well labeled diagram that we have here, the anterior division of the upper trunk fuses with the anterior division of the middle trunk to give rise to what we call the lateral cord. Did you get up to this point? Good. The anterior division of the upper trunk fuses with the anterior division of the middle trunk to give rise to the lateral cord. Okay, now we also have all of the posterior divisions coming together, fusing together to give rise to the posterior cord. So that should be easy. All of the posterior divisions fuses together to give rise to the posterior cord straight up. Okay, then we have the anterior division of the lower trunk. Remember that that's the only standalone we have. The anterior division of the upper trunk and the middle trunk give rise to the lateral cord. Okay, all of the posterior division of both upper, middle and lower trunk gave rise to the posterior cord. So we have the anterior division of the lower trunk alone, it stands alone, continue to give rise to the medial cord. So it looks like there's something about this middle trunk and middle trunk cord that likes to do things on their own. Do you understand? Remember that the middle trunk sprung forth from C7, the root C7, on its own without fusing. It doesn't need help, it doesn't need aid from another trunk, from another root rather. It moved alone and gave rise to our middle trunk. That's a standalone gang person. So you get, now we have the lower trunk. When you get to the lower trunk, so you have the anterior division coming out to form a standalone medial cord. So it doesn't need to fuse with any other division, just the anterior division of the lower trunk. You can see it here giving rise to the medial cord. Is that okay? Very clear, very straightforward, very simple. Now each of these cords now gave rise to branches. It is in the branches we're really going to spend a lot of time talking a lot about the branches, okay? But just pay attention. Each of these cords now gave rise to branches. All right, now we have the lateral cord giving rise to three branches. We have the medial cords giving rise to 5 branches. Okay, then we have the posterior cords giving rise to 5 other branches. We're going to talk about them. Now we also have some branches that ran through from the roots. Then we also have some branches that ran through from the trunk. So we're also going to be talking about the branches. But now I want to show you how to draw the brachial plexus so it will be easy. I explained with an already made diagram, but I want to show you right now how to draw it on your own so it becomes very easy and well simplified. Are we together? If you're with me, put a comment in the comment section, put a thumbs up so we'll be encouraged. Okay, good.